Imagine a world untouched by the echo of machines, where the air carried the scent of wet earth and the distant roar of beasts shook the valleys. The earth, a million years ago, was wild and untamed, a realm ruled by instinct, brute strength, and the will to survive. It was a time when nature was both a giver and a destroyer, a time when the dawn of humanity had just begun to flicker amid the shadows of a ferocious planet. Life was harsh, yet beautiful, and the prehistoric man stood as one of nature's boldest creations, fragile, fearful, and yet destined to dominate. In those ancient ages, before cities, firelit hearths, or words ever existed, man lived closer to death than to comfort. Every sunrise was uncertain, every nightfall brought fear. The forests were thick, endless green walls that whispered with the sounds of lurking predators, saber-toothed tigers, giant bears, and packs of hungry wolves. Rivers teemed with monstrous fish, crocodiles larger than boats, and swamps hid dangers that slithered beneath their black waters. Prehistoric man did not yet understand the world's patterns, he only knew hunger, fear, and the instinct to protect his kind. He was not the king of the planet yet. The beasts ruled the land, the skies, and the seas. Man was merely a clever creature struggling to exist in the space between prey and predator. His hands, though weak compared to claws and fangs, began to shape the first tools. A sharp-edged stone became his lifeline, a symbol of survival. The discovery of tools marked the beginning of his journey toward becoming human, a being capable not only of reacting to the world but of shaping it. The prehistoric man's days were a relentless pursuit of food. He scavenged carcasses left by predators, cracking bones with stones to suck the marrow, a source of precious fat and strength. As his kind evolved, so did his courage. He began to hunt in groups, communicating not with words but with gestures, cries, and expressions that carried meaning through shared experience. This primitive form of cooperation was the seed of society. Alone, he was fragile. Together, they could challenge even the mightiest beasts. The hunt was not merely a task, it was a ritual of survival. Each chase tested the body's endurance and the mind's cunning. They stalked herds of mammoths across frozen plains, coordinated attacks against swift antelopes, and learned to use the terrain as an ally. Fire had not yet been tamed in those early years, so warmth came from the sun and the shared closeness of bodies. The night, however, was a haunting kingdom. Darkness was alive with eyes, hungry, glowing, and unblinking. Man huddled inside caves, trembling at the growl of beasts outside, clinging to life through the long, moonless nights. When fire finally entered the story, it changed everything. It was a miracle that turned fear into power. Some say lightning struck a dry tree, igniting a spark that the early humans dared to touch, to carry, to guard. Fire became their protector, their warmth, their weapon. Around its flickering glow, they learned to cook meat, scare predators, and keep the darkness at bay. The flame was more than a tool, it was a symbol of mastery. For the first time, prehistoric man was no longer merely surviving, he was beginning to control his world. As centuries turned into millennia, the earth itself changed. Ice ages came and went, reshaping the continents and forcing humans to adapt or die. Tribes wandered vast distances following herds of animals, guided by instinct and memory. Some perished in blizzards, others thrived in lush valleys. Survival depended on learning, the ability to observe, to remember, and to teach. This passing of knowledge was humanity's greatest weapon, more powerful than claws or speed. In the prehistoric world, life and death were intertwined. A single wound could mean the end. Diseases, starvation, or a broken limb could erase a life in days. Yet, even amid hardship, there was a spark of spirit, a growing awareness of the self, of family, of something beyond mere existence. The earliest humans began to bury their dead, placing stones, flowers, or food beside the bodies, suggesting they believed in life beyond life. This was the dawn of emotion, compassion, and imagination, the traits that would one day define civilization. Art was born in those cold caves where survival met creativity. With ochre, charcoal, and animal fat, man painted the walls with scenes of the hunt, with images of beasts and gods and dreams. These were not mere decorations, they were stories, prayers, memories carved into stone. Each stroke told of courage, fear, and triumph. Through art, prehistoric man began to speak to the future, to us, saying, "I was here. I lived, I fought, I dreamed." But life was not only about hunting or art. It was about survival in every sense. The prehistoric world was a test of endurance, against nature's cruelty, against hunger, against rival tribes. Clashes over territory and resources often ended in blood. Weapons evolved from simple stones to sharpened spears tipped with bone. Fire-hardened wood became a deadly tool. Humans learned to build shelters from branches and hides, to weave baskets, and to craft clothing from fur. Each innovation was a step toward dominance. The prehistoric man's greatest advantage was his mind. He could plan, imagine, and adapt. When glaciers advanced and cold winds froze the world, he built fires, fashioned thick garments, and hunted creatures suited to the ice. When floods came, he climbed to higher ground. When droughts struck, he learned to move toward rivers and lakes. Adaptation became his creed, and curiosity his compass. Yet, not all struggles were with the environment. The early humans faced each other. Competition for food, mates, and territory often led to violence. Tribes fought with stones, clubs, and fire. The concept of leadership began to emerge. The strongest, smartest, or most cunning became the guide, protector, or tyrant. Social bonds grew stronger because cooperation was survival itself. Families formed clans. Clans became tribes. Around shared fires, they told stories of ancestors, spirits, and beasts, shaping the roots of belief systems that would one day evolve into religion. The earth was full of danger, but also full of wonder. Giant mammoths roamed the tundra, woolly rhinoceroses grazed the plains, and flightless birds taller than men thundered across grasslands. The world pulsed with life, wild, untamed, magnificent. Man was but a small part of it, yet he observed it with keen eyes, learning its patterns, respecting its rhythm. He was both predator and prey, both destroyer and creator. As ages passed, the climate softened, and man's relationship with the land began to change. He discovered that seeds dropped near the campfire could sprout into plants. Slowly, the idea of growing food replaced the endless wandering. The first villages were born from this realization, marking the transition from hunter to farmer, from nomad to settler. With stability came new challenges: disease, labor, defense, but also the beginnings of culture and invention. Still, the echoes of the prehistoric struggle remained within him. Even as he built huts and tilled soil, he carried the instincts of the wild, the memory of fear, the drive to protect, the hunger to explore. His survival across millennia was not luck, it was the result of relentless endurance, courage, and intelligence. Through the ages, man learned to speak, to share complex thoughts. Language became the thread that wove individuals into societies. With words, knowledge could live beyond a single lifetime. Legends of the hunt, of creation, of gods and monsters were told by firelight, passing wisdom from one generation to the next. Every word spoken was an act of survival, a way to prepare the young for the world's dangers. From chipped stones to polished axes, from sparks of fire to villages of clay and straw, every invention carried the mark of struggle. Humanity was not born in comfort but in conflict, with nature, with beasts, with itself. Every scar in the fossil record tells a story of resilience. Every tool unearthed is a whisper from ancestors who refused to vanish. The prehistoric man's life was short, but his legacy was eternal. He taught us what it means to fight without hope, to dream without comfort, and to rise even when the world seems impossible. His hands shaped the path that led to civilization, to knowledge, to art, and to the stars. Even now, when we hold a tool, light a fire, or look at the stars with wonder, we echo that ancient spirit. Beneath our modern lives, our cities, our machines, there still beats the primal heart of that early human, the survivor who gazed into the darkness and refused to surrender. Imagine him once more, a figure crouched in the flickering glow of a campfire, surrounded by his tribe. The night hums with distant howls, the air smells of smoke and blood. His eyes, weary yet defiant, stare into the flames as if seeking answers beyond time. He cannot know what the world will become, cannot imagine skyscrapers, airplanes, or the hum of electricity. But he knows this: life is a gift bought with courage. And in his silent world of stone and shadow, he has already begun to build the foundation of all human greatness. He looks to the stars, those same stars we see today, and perhaps he wonders what lies beyond. Perhaps he feels the same longing we feel, to understand, to endure, to be more than what we are. His struggle across millennia is the story of us all. It is the story of humanity's endless quest to rise above fear, to find meaning in chaos, and to survive against all odds. From that first spark of fire to the birth of language, from the painted caves to the dawn of civilization, the prehistoric man's journey is the ultimate tale of perseverance. He turned weakness into strength, isolation into community, and survival into legacy. His world was brutal, but his spirit was unbreakable. So when we look back a million years, we do not just see bones and stones, we see ourselves. We see the echoes of our ancestors in every heartbeat, every breath, every act of creation. Their struggle carved the path we walk today. Their endurance gave birth to the human story, a story written not in ink, but in blood, fire, and the will to live. Life a million years ago was not a time of peace or plenty. It was a crucible that forged the essence of what it means to be human. And though the ages have passed, and our world has changed beyond recognition, one truth remains eternal. Survival is not merely about living, it is about enduring, adapting, and striving toward a dream that outlives the darkness. That was the world of the prehistoric man, the world that shaped us all. His struggle was not in vain. His courage, written in the stones and echoed in our veins, reminds us that from the smallest spark of existence, greatness can rise. And that is the story of life a million years ago, the tale of a fragile creature who, against every force of nature, became the master of his destiny and the keeper of the earth's eternal flame.